look, this study says that like dancing cures depression. And I'm like, I don't care about studies. I don't care about science. I don't care. I don't want to know what I get out of party. But our ancestors partied, other cultures party. They share this thing because they know innately that what they get out of is they get to be a part of a tribe. And that's what we get out of it.
Welcome to the Self Within podcast, where we will look to ancient traditions and modern insights to seek guidance, knowledge, and practical tools to help us reconnect with our true selves. Join me, your host, as we explore various topics from mindfulness and meditation to energy healing, astrology, and much more. Welcome, everyone. So today we are joined by a guest who calls himself the world's first party coach. Evan Cudworth is, as far as anyone can tell, the world's first and only party coach, and he believes partying will save humanity. A nerdy University of Chicago graduate who came up in the underground rave and music scenes alongside his own struggles with validation, alcohol, and substances in the post-pandemic chaos, created The Party Within, a 7-step framework for high-achieving adults who've been sold the lie that optimization and fun are opposites. He's inspired thousands to liberate their social lives from anxiety, scrolling, and substances, and his work has appeared in GQ, The Washington Post, The Los Angeles Times, and Teen Vogue. He's here to make the case that partying, the thing we've been demonizing, might be the thing that saves us. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you so much for having me, Anabel.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in reading that intro, I'm already thinking like the demonization of partying, right? Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So again, my mission is to reconnect humanity through party culture. And while I call myself a party coach, I want to start with the party is the coach. So the party is the arena. And I assume people listening to this podcast are working on our minds, our bodies, our spirits. How do we align these things? And my invitation is that while we can do a lot of this in solitude, it's best not to do in isolation. And the party is the arena in which we get to practice these things that we spend when we meditate, when we heal, if we're not able to be in an environment with other humans. And I think that partying is one of the most beautiful things we do as humans. It's the place where we get to practice these things. So I see a lot of people demonizing and have good reasons for why certain parties or things might be places of substance abuse and exclusivity and all of those. And I'd say, great. Those are the best places to practice what we are working on inside of our lives.
So essentially putting yourself in the fire.
Yeah, it doesn't always. What's your relationship with partying? How do you consider yourself a partier? Yeah, I do too.
So my mom is from Ecuador, my dad's from Croatia, and having a Latino mom, and I grew up around pretty much her entire family. So whenever we would get together, it was no question that there would be a party. And that was just it. There was less intellectual conversation, although not that there wasn't, but it almost like the partying was the main event. And I think as I've gotten older and I've moved to Massachusetts, I sort of have lost touch with that culture and the Latino community. I think it's a little bit harder to find where I'm based. And I don't party as much during family events. I really have to go and seek out the party, which is fine. It's just a completely different shift for me that I've had to be very conscious about. But yeah, I love it and I need it in my life, actually.
Yeah. Are you familiar with like Dionysus and Apollo as kind of these two Greek gods? Okay. So the Greeks had this concept. They're not so much opposed as we even make them out to be, but to kind of energies. Apollonian art is like sculpture, right? It's like this static beauty. It is order. It represents things like painting. And I think a lot of wellness these days, I'm wearing my Aura ring, right? So it's like, how many hours of sleep do I get? How do I look on Instagram? There's beauty in that, right?
So it's like the masculine energy, right? The structure, the order.
Kind of, yes, that's one way to think it. And then the Dionysian, is more transformative. Music is the most Dionysian art, right? It is flowing. It is, we give over our ego. We dissolve our ego into this collective experience of ritual and ceremony. And yes, like when I think of a Latino party that starts at like 11 o'clock at night, where everyone's like, now we can finally get together, that to me feels like that, right?
Yeah.
And there's not to say that one is better than the other. They need each other to exist and they need to flow into each other. But I feel like we've come to a certain stage in, at least in places in America right now, where we've really demonized that side of things. And everyone is obsessed with their sleep score and optimizing. And I need that. I need structure in my life because without it, I go super Dionysian. I will disappear on 7-day benders, right? And that's how it shows up for me. So I still need that. But I know that if I don't find the balance between those two things, my life starts to feel very empty.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I love just the way that you described the two different energies, the way that we would see that, and just using the Greek gods as a way to almost embody what that could look like. So tell me, how did you blend together? Are you also a life coach? Like, of course, I get the party thing, but then where does the coaching piece come in?
The coaching comes from a lot of my own struggles and ways that I've worked with lots of therapists and coaches, and I've been to every retreat that you can go to. I've done the ceremonies. I've done all of those things. And they are all valuable and important in certain ways. But what I felt was missing from a lot of them was this fun, and fun being this life force energy that it's almost impossible to manufacture or to fake. And I saw a lot of fakeness in the wellness scene. It was supposed to be this place of authenticity. And I would show up for a yoga class. I lived in Los Angeles for a long time. I'm in Chicago now. But I was around a lot of spiritual healed people who seemed incapable of having fun and letting loose. And so the party coach idea came out of it was a little bit of a marketing kind of like putting up my middle fingers, of being like, I'm going to use partying to teach people how to be better people. And I got rid of some of that. I've had to be humbled time and time again. But I think it honestly, it's one of those things where I don't think I chose it. Somebody else started calling one of my clients that I was doing habit coaching. I was helping executives hack their morning routines, and these high achieving people didn't know how to have fun. And they were like, I see you out at Coachella and you're also waking up at 5 a.m. and like doing this morning routine. They're like, how do you do that balance? And so people started asking me, how do you party and do this? And so I truly believe that the universe kind of gave me this arena to play around in to just wake people up to the idea that there's a different way to look at personal growth.
When you were talking about being in the spiritual community and people not knowing how to party, I don't know if you remember this, but there's like a line from Karate Kid, the one with Hilary Swank. Is that number 3? I don't know which one it is, but there's a scene where her and Mr. Miyagi go to that temple and she sees the monks in a room and they're dancing and she's very confused. And she kind of turns to Mr. Miyagi. She's like, they're dancing? And he said, don't trust a spiritual leader if they don't know how to have fun or if they are not dancing, type of thing. And that has been so ingrained in my mind since I saw that. And I'm like, I love that idea. And so that was the first thing that came up. I was like, don't trust people who know how to.
I just got chills because I have not seen that movie. I
Oh
can't
my God,
wait
you have
to.
to see.
I'm so excited. And I think I've probably heard a version of that, but I just got chills because that's so cool. I love that. And that's true. Although I will say it's funny, I don't know how deep and weird we want to go. I have a spiritual practice and I've been doing a lot of chakra balancing and kind of contacting my higher self and asking for guidance. And I have two higher selves that show up. And one of them is, have you seen Kill Bill Volume 2? He's the
I probably have. I just don't know. Remember it off the
Yeah, I
top of
think
my
it's
head.
like My Pay. It's about Uma Thurman goes to like train over in Japan, I believe. And he's just like this very strict teacher, right? And he's laughing, but he's like a very strict teacher, but is always kind of laughing on the side. And that's one of the ways that my higher self shows up is I'm this kind of person who always wants to be dancing. And my higher self is like, you also need this structure to your life. But I've gotten too serious and I can get really caught up in that side. And I've part like depression and I've tried to destroy myself multiple
Mm.
times in my life because I couldn't find the balance between these things. I was either told you have to leave the party scene, you have to leave all this and live this ascetic life and not touch drugs and alcohol ever and be in these places. And that I've been back and forth, but I did get the opportunity. I partied fully sober for 2 years. And I went to
Mm.
Burning Man, I went to festivals, I went to everywhere. And while it wasn't always easy, my life felt so full when I was able to hold both of those things together for me. And I knew that I was on the path of what I was supposed to be doing when I could be in that environment and feel like I didn't need to pick up anything, but I could still dance and I could still be silly in those places.
Yeah. And I think what you had said earlier too about there can be a misconception with partying because I think we associate partying with youth. There's an immaturity, there's an innocence, there's like, we all remember that time when we also didn't have responsibilities. And most of our life was comprised of partying, going to school, partying, going to school. And I think as we mature and as we get older and as we have all of these other things in our life, that's the thing that we let go of first. It's like,
Mhm.
it's the easiest thing to just say, like, that's not a priority in my life
Mhm.
because we're so focused on the structure piece. Right. And I think that's where we eventually burn ourselves out because our only sort of reset, the way that I see it, is our vacations, right? Go on these week long, maybe 2 weeks if we get that, like a really relaxing place. Maybe we go to the beach, but there isn't a lot of partying in that either. Right. So, what do we get as human beings? What do we get from partying?
Yeah. So I actually want to start with this process that I have, which is called the party within, which stipulates that we all have this party within us and that we don't need to consume anything to activate that energy, right? Whatever that life source energy, it's available to us. So what we get by partying is affirmation that life force energy is within us, but we can't keep it unless we're willing to give it away, unless we're willing to be in that cycle of ego dissolution and sharing, going to a party and dancing and sharing in somebody's energy and being with grandma and grandpa and the 14-year-old who's celebrating their birthday. That partying is meant to be intergenerational. It's not meant to be something you do in college. It's meant to be something where everyone gets on a stage together and shares in this energy that we get the idea that we are a part. So I talk about partying as a part of, to participate, right? This is a part of it. And so people send me links all the time of like, look, this study says that like dancing cures depression. And I'm like, I don't care about studies. I don't care about science. I don't care. I don't want to know what I get out of party because if you're going to party because you want to cure your, like, great. But our ancestors partied, other cultures party. They share this thing because they know innately that what they get out of is they get to be a part of a tribe. And that's what we get out of it. But if you're trying to get your steps in, and those might be steps to that, but ultimately,
Right.
do not. I don't want to be somebody who talks about all of the scientific things that we get out of partying because I just ultimately don't think that matters.
Right. And that's where we start kind of activating our rational brain versus like our physical body when it's just like the feeling. And that's oftentimes how I would describe my relationship with partying because I love dance. And for me, a party needs to have music. Like that's just where I vibe the most. And I get to a place where I actually don't like drinking when I'm dancing because what I love about it is that I just flow and I typically will close my eyes and I just let myself hear or feel the sound. You feel it through your legs, through your feet. And then I just like whatever shows up in that moment. And I like to close my eyes because then I'm not focused on what are other people, how are they seeing me? What might be they thinking about me, right? I sort of like just forget about that and try to erase it from my mind. But that's, yeah, I think trying to feel it more physically versus using your brain to sort of rationalize why to party sort of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful. And you'll notice I actually often close my eyes when I answer questions or when I'm on podcasts. And I've had coaches and people tell me, like, you need to stop doing that. But when I limit my senses, I'm not so self-aware of, well, how does my face look? What am I presenting to the world right now? And when people ask me what I do as a party coach, sometimes it feels like I'm a fitness coach, right? Where I'm like helping, but I talk about party coaching as an act of unbecoming. We are unlearning most of the things that we picked up. Like when we first learned to party, it's like, oh, when I have 3 drinks, I feel this way. When I wear this outfit, somebody respects me. When I say my affirmations, I'm confident. But I don't like doing inner child. But like the monks and like children that are dancing for the first time, they're not thinking about those things. They don't think that they need a half point of Molly to experience the connection. So what I help people do is unbecome, let go of these things that you've picked up over time and get back to this party within that is just your natural state of what you have just described, which is this flowing state.
Yeah. How do you get people there? How do you take someone that is so uncomfortable with partying and they can't do it without some substance? What's your process?
So the process has been developed over the last 5, 6 years. Lots of other coaches have supported me in this. I'm so grateful for the clients that trust it, that hired a party coach. I send voice notes to former clients all the time, just thanking them for, thank you for trusting me. I just used what you taught me because they are teaching me all the time
Exactly.
by going out and taking the risks. I ask them to do weird stuff. So let me start in the middle and then I'll come back. But the middle part of my coaching is what's called a wellness bender, which is a 21-day habit challenge. I actually just finished up a group with it last week, where part of this is just practicing 7 habits for 21 days. One of those habits is starting your day with a cold shower. Even if that's 15 seconds, showing your body that you can choose your discomfort instead of choosing the comfort of a drink or a drug. The first thing that you do is, I'm putting cold water on my body. It changes people's lives. I know it sounds so silly, but if you wake up and the first thing you do is 15 seconds of cold water, watch what happens to all the other hard things in your life that you're discomfortable. Another thing that they struggle with is 3 minutes of dancing every day by yourself. So I have them dance. Sometimes I make them record and send me the video. But like you
Oh my God,
said,
that would be so embarrassing.
people are so embarrassed. I was like, what are you embarrassed about? What do you think humans were designed to do? Like, we are these spiritual beings that are meant here to be dancing. And then it's things like calling up your friends and just saying you're grateful to them and showing people that you don't want anything from them. You are simply giving. And so it's this whole act of reprogramming the idea that you need something in order to awaken this party. And so what happens ultimately by the end of this, and not everyone makes it through, people give up a lot.
Yeah.
It's my job to motivate them to be a cheerleader and say, it doesn't matter if you miss a couple days, just pick right back up. But people deal with a lot of shame. They're like, if I don't do this perfectly, I must be failed.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, no, like I can't even do the 21 days perfectly. I've done this 15, 20 times and I can't do it. But do I show up for the party messy? You bet I do. And so it's things like that where people trust me to try to get more into their bodies and their spirits instead of being in their heads, that I see people. I'm going to get emotional. I just saw this girl who a couple years ago, she was dealing with a substance addiction, not really a common one, a less common one, but was kind of ashamed about it and was rebuilding her life. And she did this program with me and we redefined fun. We did some of these things and she is now moved cities, but has this partner. She went to Movement Electronic Festival and she was like, I was sober for 90% of the time. I was dancing. I was out the whole time. She was like, I was so present. She started doing comedy. There's a whole life that opened up for her after years of therapy and other things that were trying to get to the core root of something instead of just changing the habits in which we get to exist. So I'm not saying those things are opposed or opposites, but sometimes we need a coach and a therapist, someone that shows us that there's something out there to pursue.
Exactly. Wow. Well, I love all those little habit changes. I mean, it's true. I can just imagine how difficult it would be for someone to keep that up. So many of us sign up for challenges and we just like, there's always that initial excitement in the beginning, like, yeah, I can do this. And then you're like, I don't know. And all these other commitments show up and everything. But I think for people that stick through it, I mean, that's amazing, that one example that you gave, and how being able to tap into fun in new ways opens up all of these other doors that you just would never have even considered.
I'm self-identified very nerdy. I used to love being in the library on Friday and Saturday nights, and I would read books, and it still is fun for me. But one day I woke up and I was like, I love cocaine and 5 a.m. raves. It's like, and that's what's fun for me, you know? There's many paths, but the redefining fun, learning that part of it is there's a little bit of fake it till you make it. And you kind of got to let yourself be taken over by the idea that if I'm around other fun people and I kind of just dance along with that vibe, that I can find something for myself there. Because I think it's, especially these younger generations, see everything through the panopticon of fun, where they're all watching each other on social media and judging every little thing. And I'm so glad we didn't grow up deep in that, because I think I would have been even more paranoid than I am now. And I'm pretty paranoid about how I look. And it's just scary. But I'm pretty optimistic. I'm seeing a lot of silliness come back. Just in the last year or two, I'm seeing a lot more.
So, okay, you talking about silliness and just like pairing that with the social media thing, because I had that feeling recently where my husband will say to me, he's like, "Oh, I really like your videos online, but you're so serious." And he's like, "That's not who you are in real life. At home, you can be really silly." And I was like, "Yeah, you're so right." Because when the camera is on, I'm rehearsed and I go over my bullet points, like, this is what I want to say. And I need to make sure that it's in 30 seconds. And there's all this pressure that I put on myself to nail it and make sure that it gets lots of views and likes and all these things, right? And recently I was like, okay, I need to just let that go, abandon it, and just try to like just riff whatever is coming up and just go with it. So recently I had signed up for this improv class because that was my way of putting myself in an uncomfortable position. I'm like, okay, if I'm trying to be more silly and more spontaneous, then I'm going to do it in front of this group of people that I don't even know. I've never done improv before, but I know I like to be dramatic. So I'm going to try it out. And when I signed up, my husband's like, "Why did you sign up for this class? This is totally not you." I was like, "That's the point." I had so much fun doing that. I laughed so much. I left like my cheeks were hurting because of how much fun and smiles we had. And we just got to be like silly and it didn't matter. And we were all in the same boat doing the same exact thing. So, yeah, so that gave me a little bit of inspiration for just trying to do more riffs when I'm like just on video.
Yeah. Well, I love that you called out, like, this is so not me, but getting joy out of that, getting fun out of that. And I think we're in a time where everyone wants to know their Enneagram and their human design. And like everyone wants to know, like, what's my archetype, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, if I could just be more me. And I think that's great. But what I love about partying is people talk about authenticity. Partying is a time to put on a mask. You can be someone else. You can put on a costume. There's something fun about being not yourself a little bit. And I think that's another part of that Dionysian, which is a lot about kind of like trickery. It's the light kind, right? It's the more like the jester kind that it is manipulation. It's the opportunity to realize that you and I are living in different bodies, but I might have some parts of me that are like a lot more like you, and you have parts that are more like me. And when we get in flow and when we dance together, we see that come out.
Mm.
And just in a time when we're increasingly told, go find yourself. And once you find your perfect Enneagram and human design, you'll figure everything out. There's truth to that. And it can be liberating, but it can be constrictive. And so party is an opportunity we can throw all that stuff away and just go be.
Okay, so I've actually done that, the whole like putting the mask on. This was like years ago, but a friend and I, we decided we were going out and we fully got dressed up in like we had wigs on, the whole nine. I mean, we did
Mhm.
not look like ourselves. And that was the most fun. And actually, I remember being a little scared because I was like, my ID looks nothing like what I look like. Like I thought they're going to take my ID away because they're going to think like this is a fake ID. You're not the same person. Luckily, that didn't happen, but it was super fun to have that. There was like a playfulness to it. It's like nobody knows who I am here. And even if they did, nobody would recognize me. And I had a different persona, right? And I think you hear that too with a lot of celebrities who, when they get on stage, they become like, I think Beyonce has Sasha Fierce or whatever hers is.
Mhm.
I guess that's another way of looking at it, right? Of when we face those moments of fear, anxiety, or awkwardness, right? Who can we be? And even putting ourselves in situations where we know we're not going to know other people, right? We're not going with friends. Maybe we go alone because we want to pretend that day,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Even have our own narrative, like our own story that's completely different from who we are. I actually have another name that I use where I'm Anabel, but when I'm out, and actually I had a teacher who encouraged us to do this. He's like, yeah, my students know me as this. I go by this when I go to my yoga class. And I was like, you know what? Like, why don't we do that more often? It's not that we're being inauthentic, it's just that it automatically creates a different energy. And if you look into the Viking runes, so that's kind of how I came up with my like alter
Mm.
ego. So her name is Aaliyah. And I specifically looked at the Viking runes because every single letter has its own meaning. And so I sort of put together the different letters that I wanted. Who did I want this person to embody? And yeah, so that's my other name, but it's so fun to do that.
Can I call you Aaliyah for the rest of the
Yes. Oh my
podcast?
God. That's so cool.
All right, Aaliyah, we are in this energy. I
I love
love
it.
this so much. I'll back up and say there is an unhealed version of this and a less intentional version of this because early on in my alcoholic days, I would have a whole other personality that would come out. My name is Evan, but he was Kevin, Kevan.
Oh my God.
I'm a happily out gay man. Kevin was a straight dude who went to Wharton, would vacation in Mallorca, and had this toxic masculinity straight part of me that wanted that validation to be that person, would go out and lie to girls and would create this identity that was
Mm.
a lot of people found it fun, and there was parts of it, but I had a Facebook page. And it was a joke, but
Shut
it
up.
wasn't a joke. He has a bunch of Facebook friends and people that he met, and people would tag Kevin Cudworth and be like, Kevin Cudworth was up last night doing his stuff. I look back and there's fun parts of it, but it's really quite sad, I think, in a lot of ways too, because I was so repressed and scared, and I didn't have outlets for that part of me that needed to be seen.
Mm.
That's one of the ways that it came out. And I think when people demonize rightly the party scene, I think a lot of versions of that for people come out that way, right? The toxic, the cheaters, the people that need to let violence out, that they find the party scene and they find people to attach to there. They find ways to let really toxic parts of themselves out into the party scene. And we need to acknowledge that is a place that happens.
Mm.
While at the same time, realize that there's a fun, playful part of us that as humans, we want to do this, but without the healing, without the intentional taking on of this process, that these personalities are going to want to create themselves and escape through more vile means.
I was just thinking about like what came up for me was the fact that party scenes typically happen at night. And so that seems to be like the time when our shadow self comes out, right? Like during the day, we're operating, it's daylight, we're at work, we're focused, we're like getting shit done. And then all of a sudden, transition into night, we become these different versions of ourselves that either, as you said, are authentic or repressed or whatever the case is. But it's so interesting that that's like the shadow self. It comes out at night and typically around party times too, because that's just when they happen. Although I'll say that lately, and I'm going to a party this weekend, so I'm excited, but there are a lot more of these like daytime parties now too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's changed a lot of the party scene where it's not focused on drinking. It's actually like there are more mocktails out. And I don't know. I think that's part of the new, I've seen it with this new generation. It's less focused on drinking. But again, I don't think it's everywhere.
Yes, I'm seeing that a lot more too. And I've been going out the last 2 weekends. We were doing these day parties in Chicago. that go from like 2 to 9 p.m. or something. And it's fun. They're rooftop parties. And yes, they're still focused on alcohol, but I'm not drinking right now. And I have this other buddy. We're both 39. And so we're full like middle. I'm gonna be 40, but we're out there dancing, and people are coming up to us. They're like, "Are you paid like actors being here?" And we're just vibing and acting. But I see these. It's mostly younger people that are coming up to us. They're like, "Thank you for just," and they start jabbing with us. This last weekend, there was like 12 dudes that were all dancing in the corner with us, and you could feel that they really needed a space to do that, and that for whatever reason, like I grew up where that was pretty common. We were just doing that all the time. I just don't think this younger generation is doing that as much. And
Mm.
I ran into another one of them when I was at a moon circle on Monday. And he was like, dude, I felt so much better after dancing with you on Saturday. And I don't know if I'm making the world a better place all the time. I was like, am I a symptom of late stage capitalism? I'm just leeching on partying. I was like, what am I doing? But I get people come up to me and tell me that all the time. If I really needed that energy, or thank you for bringing that as an option, a possibility. And that ultimately is what I'm trying to do, because I don't think I'm doing things the right way. In fact, I still do things the wrong way. There's plenty of unhealed parts of me, but I do try to bring an energy of possibility to people.
So I've always wanted to be one of those bar mitzvah hype girls. That's
Yeah.
literally been my dream, hands down. The bar mitzvah hype girl that goes and gets the grandfather out on stage. And that's literally, oh my God, if I could do
So
that right now, please hire me. Please hire me.
So let's be in touch, because little this guy and I were like, should we started calling ourselves the party catalysts, and he's making hats. And we're like, listen, this might be finally at age 39, I could finally achieve my dream. So
Oh my gosh.
we'll
Really
fly you in. Yeah. Yeah.
hit me up. We will
Yeah.
bring this to Boston.
Aaliyah's gonna
Yes,
be on
then
the
she
dance
could
floor.
truly come out. Leah gets to come out
Yeah.
because right now, not many people know about her, but yeah, she needs to come out. So, so the other thing that I was thinking about as you were talking is I find that for men, it's a lot harder to be out on the dance floor and to be partying. Talk to me a little bit more about that, because I think that's beautiful that you were able to have that group of people that felt so safe and so comfortable with you and could get let loose.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll say I've always had healthy men around me who have been able to do that. Pretty much so. I'm grateful for that. Even my fraternity in college, I was like the only out gay person when I was there for a while. No one came after me, but even then, we would put on the Lion King after drinking, and we'd all be dancing together. And seeing that, how happy and healed everyone would be after that, just really solidified that as being so important to me. And then when I got out into the world, whether it was jobs that I worked, and even I worked in the music industry, and A&R people or executives or people that would supposedly be around music that didn't want to dance and took themselves so seriously and refused to be silly and dance. And I saw what it did to their kind of like energy. I realized how still scared and show a lot of their personality was. I think every generation's job is to heal themselves. I don't think we can save anyone. So Gen Z and the youngers, they're facing a lot of uphill battles. I think technology and dopamine and over comfort, over protection, helicopter parenting of them is going to create a lot of things that they're going to have to figure out how to exist in the world. But again, I am seeing a lot more kind of affection and goofiness, at least on TikTok, of younger generations. The guys are just being like, screw it, we're going to go on a guys trip or we're going to dance. And I see a lot more of that happening now.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
really good. That's really good. I should probably notice and pay attention because I haven't that much. And again, it's mostly because I'm lost in my own world when I'm out. So I don't pay attention, but that'll be interesting to see how that changes. I think every generation has their own uphill battle that they need to go through. And yeah, it's just part of life. I feel like we're all figuring ourselves out. And we're all trying to, I think, to your point with wanting to know who we are, right? The human design, the astrology, the Enneagram, all these other things that made me think back to just today, I was saying out loud to myself, what does it mean to speak your truth? Because again, this is something that we hear so often in this spiritual community or any sort of self discovery journey. To speak your truth. And there's a part of it that's okay. I guess I understand what that means. But there's also something that's so confusing about it. What does that actually look like? What does it feel like? And what if the truth that we think that we're speaking is not actually coming from the version of ourselves that we want to become? Or it's coming from this old version, right? Because I think at like a base layer, speak your truth just means don't say lies. And you're like, okay, I can do that. I can manage that. I'm not going to lie to myself. But what if the self that everyone sees is not your actual self? Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's very philosophical, but that's where I was landing. I was like, okay, so how do we speak our truth? Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this up. It's very relevant to my life this week, as I think sometimes I thought speak my truth. Actually, we think about it like if you have a political opinion, you're like, I stand up for this. This is my truth, right? And I'm going to speak this loud. I used to think that's what speaking my truth meant. And I recently spoke out about something that it was true to me. It's an opinion that changed and it feels true to me now. But I was like, but 2 years ago, if I saw myself speaking that thing, I would have been like, you're full of like that. You don't really believe that, right?
Mm.
Contrasted with, and this is getting a little spiritual woo, probably deeper than I normally would go, but I think it's relevant here. I've been practicing one lately, which is called two-way prayer. Are you familiar with that concept at all?
Yeah.
So, concept is I usually do some sort of like spiritual reading or something that's related to that. I have some sort of question that I need clarity or truth on. I write that question down. I sit and meditate. And then I sit down to write as if God was speaking to me. But you start with like, my child, right? My child, you are this. And actually, here, I can read a little one that I just did this week. But what's been coming up to me through it's the truth that is like so much. It's not my ego that's being like, see me as this way. It's like the way that God sees me. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional with this. All right. I wanted truth of like, how do I show up on social media? And so this is what came in. Listen, my child, strum lightly. You have much to learn in tone, but stop this clutter. You've learned what you needed from all of the quantity. Leave the casino and listen to yourself. My child, I know you want to join the symphony, but they are using different tunings. My child, soften into tuning yourself. I know this sounds selfish, but you know it is true that you keep skipping steps just to fit in. My child, you're growing even when you cannot see or hear. Let love lead.
Wow.
So like when I think about like what's my truth, like that to me is so much truer than this is what I speak politically. Like that is raw. Like I skip steps to fit in.
Mm.
I can love myself even if I'm imperfect. I want to belong, but I want to join this. You know that I don't know if that made any sense, but like when I think about speaking my truth, it's closer to that.
Well, you're a Libra, right?
Libra, Scorpio, yes, yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
totally so Libra.
Okay, good. Heck
I
yes.
mean, I'm a Libra, so I feel like I can talk about this, but we want to fit in. Like that's a part
Yes.
of it.
Yeah.
What's so beautiful about Libra is, and I love all signs and I'm so into all of them. But the misconception about Libra, of course, is that we're already balanced. We're not. That's literally our life's goal is to figure out what does balance look like for us. And then the other thing is figuring out how can you be yourself within a relationship? And that is in community, right? But you can't be in community unless you figure out who you are. And that is the hardest thing for a Libra because we are all about what everybody else wants. I mean, we put
Yes.
ourselves last. It's like, how are we going to flow? How do we fit in? How will they like us? What are they thinking? What are the perceptions and the judgments? And there's all this other mental clutter and noise that goes on because we're also very much in our head. that we lose track. We lose sight of that person when we're completely on our own, when there is nobody else around. And that's when we really are our truest selves, right? It's like what my husband said to me. It's like when I'm at home with my family, I am silly and all these other things. But outside, I can be different and I look different. And yeah, so it's definitely a hard thing to find as a Libra, but I love that came through.
Thank you so much for that. And yeah, this ties into even what I say from the beginning, right? Of the balancing of these gods and all of that. I think my Libra shows up a lot more because I have a Scorpio stellium, but I have a Libra moon. And I think that's where a lot of that comes.
Yeah.
But going to tune myself or to figure out like how do I do that's really tough for me. I don't want to do that, like I want to be part of. So yeah.
It's easier to get lost in the other because, again, then we don't have to make decisions. And
Mhm.
being a sign that is a very indecisive or can be, it's like, just tell me what to do. It'll be fine for me. I'll go with the flow. Like I'm easy, I'm flexible, right? Those common things that I've said many times. And when we actually say we're not flexible, no, that is a boundary for me. And I had to say that this week with a friend who had asked me for some help related to something. And when he asked, and we were out talking on the phone, so he couldn't actually see me, but my teeth clenched. I like sucked air in, and my whole face just completely contorted. And then, of course, in my brain, I'm thinking, like, well, maybe I can make it work. I want to be a good friend. Maybe I can find a way. I can still support him. There were all these other stories and rationalizations that I was trying to go through so that I could say yes, because it was much more uncomfortable for me to hear the pause of, I don't know, it was like a fear of what if they say they don't like me anymore. There were all these what ifs. So eventually, after a long pause, I was like, you know what? I actually don't think I can do that for you. And it ended up being fine. Like the other person was like, oh, okay. Thanks for setting that boundary with me. I was like, man, this was so easy. And I just made it so hard for myself. And then there was this huge sigh of relief. And I actually ended up saying to him, I'm like, look, there was a version of me that would have said yes because I want to please. But me saying no is me trying to live in this new version of me, which has boundaries. And I know that down the line, I would have probably resented the fact that I said yes. And I don't want that to bleed into our relationship because we have such a good relationship that I don't want it to harm what we've got going on just because I said yes and
Yes.
didn't want to.
Yeah. Yeah, you're bringing up just all the past of littered with resentments of people that I bent over backwards for time and time again. It was like, this will come back to me one day, right? And I've been able to let go of so much of that. I feel very, very healed. But that's how I lived for a long time.
Mm.
Of I have to say yes to this because if I don't, the karmic debt is going to destroy me or something like that. And
Right.
look at us. Heal it ourselves.
I know, right? We start talking about party and we're ending somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, for anyone who made it this far, that is my point, which is that things could just get stale, things could get stuck. And partying is a place, and talking about party culture is a place where the edges are either sharp or really dull. I don't know which one, but instead of the hypothetical, things get very real
Mm.
when we are in a party situation, right? We are in a place where our body is being desired. There's sexual energy being directed towards us. What do you do with that? Do you please that sexual energy? Do you reject it? Do you accept it? Do you love it? That's much realer than thinking about,
Mm.
the archetypes, right? You want a new job and the VPs all bring you into the coke room and you have an option. They're like, if you do this cocaine, you're going to be in with this group. What do you do with that decision? It's just, I find very real rubber meets the road elements that come in when we get in the arena of partying that kind of test some of these boundaries that we say that we have.
In the beginning, you talked about one of the steps, I would say, in your framework, right? Where you're trying to get people into this uncomfortable place or just knowing that they can bring themselves there if they want to. So, what happens after that? Once, let's say they've made it through that first round, they've gotten themselves uncomfortable, what else do they focus on?
It's the last three, well, the stages 5 and 6 are called Find Your Tribe and Host Your Ceremony, which is about kind of defining who are the people that you want to be around. What does this tribe look like? And ultimately, are you creating something sustainable for you? So maybe it's a party, maybe it's a house party you host, maybe it's a moon circle, I've had people host walking clubs or card nights or anything for them that feels like they are actually creating this for other people. But actually, stage 7, which I think is the most important one and gets dropped by most personal development, which is called Party for Life. And it's about how to ask for help. And it's about pre-creating a series of people who you can call on when stuff doesn't go your way, when a life inevitably blows up, when inevitably you do make bad decisions or isolate again. And so we create lists of people and we tell them, we're like, hey, you are my isolation person that when I'm isolating, here's a signal that I can send to you. And it lets you know that I don't want to get out of bed or I feel like I'm a burden or I am this thing. And are you willing to be this person for me? And can we have a conversation about that?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And so, because I need that because I was somebody I was so extroverted and outroverted. I had 500 friends and nobody that I could really call because they would have picked up right away. But I was like, I'm the coach. I'm the strong one. I'm the person who can't do this. And I would constantly get myself into these situations. I was like, well, if I show any sort of weakness, everything will fall down and everyone will see me as a fraud. And so learning very painfully slowly that like the creating avenues to ask for help is the key to keeping this system flowing and keep it moving.
Wow, I love that. I very much resonate with that because I agree. It's like we don't want to burden anyone with our troubles. And it's funny because after the fact, when I've told friends certain stories, I'm like, yeah, this went on. They're like, I had no idea. Like, oh my God, you should have called. And I'm like, oh, yeah, in retrospect, you should have. But that's such an awkward conversation, right? To just call. Sometimes we call randomly out of the blue, right? Because we haven't had that touch point. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm in crisis mode. And that just feels weird. But by upfront saying, look, I would like to have this type of relationship with you. I want you to be this type of person for me. This is the signal. It shifts, right? It shifts it completely. And it does create, I think, more safety for yourself. They're already prepped and they know that if this comes through, I need help. And I think that makes it so much more comfortable to reach out versus going cold and reaching out to friends that way.
Yeah. So the cycle of moving from tuning yourself into, okay, how am I relationship with other people? How do I ask for help? It's a cycle that's meant to be repeated, you know,
Mm.
just like everything. I've spent a lot of time in and around 12-step recovery. And while there is an experience of healing that happens through going through that cycle once, anyone who's there has told you if you're not always working the steps, if you're not in the humility of a daily practice that realigns you with access to the serenity that we receive through going through this process, either one of those gods is going to come back really loud on our shoulders and they'll continue to grow regardless of whether we're healed or not.
Yeah. Like I've had this experience where I've had to shift my tribe where originally, like I wanted it to be a specific group of people because that was the group that felt like I would fit into. And then over time, I realized like, actually, they're not my people because we don't have much in common or I don't know, whatever the case was. And I would say only within the last years have I sort of allowed myself to release those other people, not because something bad happened, there was an argument or anything, but just because it was a very natural evolution of I've sort of outgrown that community and I've started adding in or even calling in more people that I'm connected to, the ones that I can call. And so that's super important. And I think once you begin to, again, kind of know and understand yourself, it just comes a little bit more naturally.
Yes. I'm trying to think of if I understand myself. If I'm being very, here's my truth. Because I've kept journals since I was 14, almost daily. And I've gone back and I've been rereading those lately. I have something like, it's like 2 or 3 million words that I've written.
Yeah.
And what a gift. I'm so grateful for that. I go back and read and I recognize pieces of myself in that.
Mm.
But am I any closer today of knowing this is definitely me and this is definitely not? I don't think I am. And whatever, maybe I'm a quad right in human design, which is this like all of my basically very passive. I have a lot of just like I exist in the world to just kind of respond and react, and like I don't see strategy of anything, and that I do know that is true, right? And so maybe that's just the way that I personally absorb. But even a lot of my friends, I've seen them become different versions of themselves and revert back and flip and flop and all over. And I don't know. It's just the action of going to a party, the action of dancing, the action of meditating. I receive growth and serenity through the action instead of the overthinking and overanalyzing.
And I don't know if we'll ever get to the true version of ourselves or the real version of ourselves because it's constantly changing. And who we are now, it's probably not who we're going to be 10, 20 years from now. So I think that's just part of it. And I think, as you said, you end up finding pieces of you along the way. And I wonder if there are certain pieces that just stick, right? I wonder if we think of ourselves more like, what is that saying? A season, a reason, a lifetime, where we go through these phases where sometimes it's just a seasonal thing that we're in. Other times it is more of the lifetime, right? We see the patterns just over the years. It's like, oh, this part was always with me. And then the other time it's just there for a specific reason. And it sort of got you to a particular point or place. And then you evolved from there. So I think that might just be it. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I like that as an ad. I might add that into part of a season, reason, a lifetime. I love that. I have not heard that before.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, I love
Yeah,
that saying.
yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with it so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Are there any things that you're realizing are maybe with you for a lifetime lately?
Oh man, I feel like that's deep.
Step into my Scorpio cove.
I know, I know. There you go. You and me. We both have Scorpio stelliums, we
Yeah,
discovered.
yeah.
So I love going deep. I mean, to be honest, I know we're talking about it, but I think for me, the lifetime is definitely the need to dance, to move my body, to party, to connect. That's always there. And even if I don't do it, there's a longing for it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll speak to the getting serious but silly at the same time. I've spent quite a lot of time in and around sobriety, recovery, addiction communities. One of the reasons I do this is I've lost a lot of friends to overdoses, and
Mm.
I've watched people create order in their life. Maybe they put down the substance and they might even find doses of serenity. But when they're not able to find that fun in their life, when they're not able to have that side of themselves and that is blocked off, it usually does not end well. And I get accused a lot. I get it less now, but when I was first starting, like a party coach, what are you doing? Like being sober and telling people to go party, you're going to kill people. I'd get that a lot. And
Mm.
that's fair criticism. But I've seen a lot of people die because they didn't party or they didn't find a way to let that happen. And of course, everyone is on their own journey on where that is. But when we get really serious about why I do this, like I was at this full moon thing the other night and this woman came up to me. She was like, I've been following you for years and I got sober. And she's like, until I went out and started to like dance again, she's like, nothing felt right and it feels right. And I was standing next to one of my buddies. He's like, does that happen a lot? And I was like, it does. And every single time I've wanted to quit so much because this has
Yeah.
drained me financially, emotionally. It's drained a lot for me to do this. But it also fills me up. I've wanted to give up. And I do believe that I'm here to have that possibility that if you're listening to this and there's something that's blocking you from that feeling, that Aaliyah and Kevin have, which is like there's this side of us that needs to be a part of and needs to be flowing and needs to be in that there are other portals to that. I'm not saying I have exactly the right door for you to walk through, but I will walk up and knock on those doors with you. And sometimes I think I needed someone to say that to me, and there were people that said that to me. And I love my life today. I've lived such a full life. I've achieved pretty much everything I've wanted to, actually. Everything from here is bonus. And that is a product of allowing myself to be curious about those different doors that I could walk through.
Right. Right. So if someone who is listening right now wants to let themselves have more fun, what's their first move?
So, there's a lot of stuff out there that's about like, what did you like to do as a kid? I think that's valuable. Like, just make a list of all of those things. When you were 8, what did you do for fun?
Yeah.
And start there. If the child stuff doesn't sound very fun for you, go out to a party. There's a day party where you're at. Look on Eventbrite. Look somewhere else. And your job is to stop thinking about yourself, and your job is to help somebody else there have fun. And do not leave until somebody else has said that was fun. And just keep going out and helping other people have fun. And what you will notice is you're probably a self-absorbed person who's stuck in your own head. And as soon as you start thinking about other people in that way and helping them have fun, it becomes a lot easier for you to let that fun flow. But sometimes it's really hard for people to think that they deserve fun, so they have to help other people have it, and therefore it will be more accessible.
Wow. I hadn't thought about it that way. Okay. So focus on making other people have fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Cause I think you're right. I think you stop focusing on you and then it becomes about the other and it's a little bit easier. Yeah. What is one question that you wish more people would ask you about?
Why do you describe yourself as nerdy? Maybe it's pretty obvious after this conversation, but
I wouldn't
I
describe you as
really,
nerdy.
you would or wouldn't?
No, I know I wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, I really am. Like, I'm rereading all the great books now, and I'm going really deep into. I spend so much time. My favorite podcasts are I listen to these Catholic deacons who read the great books through the Catholic lens. I'm not Catholic. I have nothing to do with that, but I'm really interested in, yeah, that stuff. And I have a Star Wars tattoo, and I'm like very, very into. I used to dress up and I would choreograph fights with my fake lightsabers. And I have this really nerdy side of me that I've covered up in some ways, but also I love being seen as cool. It's a portal into my nerdiness, which is I'm just very curious about really weird stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's your social media presence. That's your
Yeah,
question. That's the
yeah,
answer to
there
your
we
question.
go.
Being
Yeah.
nerdy.
It's literally, I just posted yesterday a story of what I read in May, and I've never done this, and it has more likes than anything that I was doing the last couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh, that was you being nerdy. I love
Yeah. Yeah. Look
Okay,
at
so now I'm
us.
like trying to think, what would I post that I normally don't? And I don't know what that would be.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to think about that. That'll be my
Well, yeah. Have you let that, like, you said you do a lot of rehearsal and sort of that. Have you let kind of silly side of yourself out more lately?
No, not silly. I've definitely let the part of me that just rips that will just like
Mm-hmm.
talk about something that's on my mind. But I don't even know how to be silly on camera. That's actually the truth. I don't know if, like, unless I actually just placed a camera in my house and I just let it happen, I don't think I can perform the silliness. Do you know what I mean? It's a very
Mm-hmm.
natural. So, for example, this morning, I randomly started singing Deck the Halls, and then I literally made every single thing that I talked about with my kids into the Deck the Halls song. And
Yeah.
and it was in this operatic voice, and that was me being so silly. And I love doing that. I love making up my own lyrics to different tunes, but I don't even know how to capture that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, just pause briefly on that. Like my mom would do that. We were always singing and being goofy, and we would take Disney songs, and she would just make up all the own lyrics to them. And we were all those
Yeah.
choruses still go in my head to this day. And I think that's so important and beautiful. But again, like don't feel the need to, like, unless you are like, I don't like how I'm showing up on social media and I want to change this, don't, you don't need to try to force it. But like an
I was just gonna
opportunity.
say,
Yeah.
like, not everything needs to be posted. And I think that's the
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
We live in this world where we feel like every single moment, everything needs to be displayed. And there was someone I was following who made a post about not crying in her videos or in her posts, where oftentimes I will see people that I follow who are talking about how sad they are or how emotional, and they have a picture of them with tears. And what I loved about what she said was like, this is a private and personal moment for me. It's internal. I don't need to share this with the world. Not that there's anything wrong with people that want to do that, but that's just not for me. And I'm like, yeah, I totally feel that. Right. Like, oftentimes I'm the last person to remember taking photos when we're on family vacations because I'm just like in the moment. I'm like, who cares about my phone? I'm just like watching this waterfall and that's beautiful and whatever it is. So, yeah, I think some things do need to be private and personal because so much of our life now is external and exposed.
Yes. And I don't regret sharing that little prayer that I did here, but I did that here in a very deep conversation on a podcast. But there's a lot of spiritual accounts, and I think that is one area of my life. I have a lot of other parts of the spiritual side of myself that I was like, there's parts of me that really want to share that because I was like, well, I want people to see what this does for my life. But then I notice the people that are kind of like sharing more openly about that, and I think it can get performative very quickly. And I want to keep that area sacred for myself. But my desire to share it is really strong. And I have learned slowly to keep more of that private.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, Evan, where can people learn more about you if they're interested in working with you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, catch Aaliyah and Evan dancing at, at some warehouse room somewhere. But you can find me at partycoach.me. And then if you search Party Coach on TikTok or Instagram, I'll come up. And there's a lot of videos of me dancing silly. I will just, TikTok has like a song of the day usually, or I'll put it up. It's like for you. And I just put that on and then I'll just dance to it. And it gets 16 likes and I feel great doing it. So it just, that's one of the ways that I show up is I just dance to that a lot.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been so fun and I loved it. I love talking about
I feel like I got a lot of healing, that there was the season, a moment, or a season, a reason for life. Yeah,
season, a reason, a lifetime.
love it.
Thank you for listening. If you're interested in becoming a client and working with me, visit me at nunatherapy.com or follow me on social media at nunatherapy for regular content and inspiration. Until next time.